structure would look like. You can see the existing high school and what it looks like next to it, and the tennis court on the right. Kind of a quick draw visual of what it would look like from parking. We'd add a little bit more parking to the front, because when you do this, you can see it shifts, and so you have some parking that we can add, kind of to the north of what that would look like, where that would be.
So, no, the track goes away completely?
Track goes away.
No track?
Yeah. And go from there. And then the early childhood conversion, you'll see two different ideas here. We might get rid of the second one. Oops, sorry. I'm trying to drive. So this is the, kind of the main idea. We would add a little bit of additional office space to the central office area, which would be on the north side of that building, convert the office spaces, and then the blue would be all CTE. Amy and I met, I put this in my update last week, Amy and I met with the high school staff regarding CTE programming, what we would add, what programs or kids are waitlisted, how can we get kids in. I then met with the ISD on Friday, had deeper conversations about what programming we might want to do, and then what we can convert. It's a much longer conversation. The good thing is we have time, because if this is the direction that the board approves and we go that way, we'd have to build early childhood centers first, and that takes time. So we're talking years down the road, where hopefully your kids, Andrew, might still be able to access that.
I was thinking about that, like, my kids will be gone
I
when
think
any
so.
of this is done, so this is.
Not any of it, but, early childhood would be the only one that doesn't
We're back
affect
to
that
that
anymore.
stage.
Yeah.
So where was the ISD head?
So I mentioned before that there's three options to the ISD. Number one, they run it as if it's a satellite program for them. Number two, we work in concert with them, and it's a lot of their staff, our facilities, and work together. Or number three, we do it on our own, which then becomes a staffing conversation that Mrs. Armstrong would have to be deeply involved in. Right now, we're looking at programming on our own and seeing what programs are kids that we can fill up and utilize the most. There's several programs that I think we could fill, 2 sessions all year long. And there's others that we might have to work in concert with them, but what we don't know, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What we don't know is what the volume of student population outside of our district that would be interested in coming here. We want to take care of our kids first, but let's say on average, there's 44 kids that are taking welding, and we're looking at a program that can house 56. If we want to take 12 kids, we open it up. This time of year, quite frankly, say we have 12 spots for next year. We do have several students. The numbers are misleading. There's 600 kids on the ISD's wait list. District-wide, county-wide, there's 600 kids that are waitlisted to get into their programs. It's a little misleading, which I didn't know until we met with the high school. Several of our students, as juniors, apply for programming, know they won't get in, but they do it so that they can get preferential enrollment their senior year. So it's misleading to say 600 kids. It could be closer to 400 or 500. I mean, there's still a lot, but what that looks like. And there are programs that are coming out that we might be able to kind of be innovative in. A lot of nursing programs that we're talking about, business classes.
So you didn't get, I know we're years out, but you didn't get pushback from them?
No.
Okay.
No. I think the biggest pushback is the ISD is saying we need to expand CTE. In order to do that, they want to look for additional financial resources to do it.
But they're not
No.
concerned about districts like Hudsonville or whatever, probably no.
No, there are several districts, Jennison, West
Right.
Ottawa,
Right.
Grand Haven, they have some programming, we have some
Yeah.
CTE programming. But I think there's a larger constituent of students. I would really like to see all of our kids that go to down Fort Sheldon in January, on a snowy day, go across the railroad tracks.
Okay, I just want to understand if they were, had
Yeah.
plans that.
And I've had conversations with them, so they're well aware of this conversation.
You know, is there a possibility, the thing that, okay, let's say there's 50 kids coming from other districts, ultimately into our new opportunities. Perhaps they might want to be Yeah, I never thought of that.
It could very well be that they could be easily in two different programs that are morning and afternoon.
Right, right.
And then they're here, or they could say, you know what, I'm here and I wanna take a music class and a language class and a couple classes, a math, whatever, another
Yeah.
class at high school.
I
just
think
right.
I think that's an important thing to talk about, possibilities.
Yeah.
The ship may have sailed, but I'm gonna ask the question anyway. So, we've got 23,000 square feet for central office renovation, another 2,000, so call it 25,000 square feet. It's not quite as much as the whole CTE renovation portion, the blue portion. But is the demand high enough? Is there that much demand for additional programming here that it would make sense that let's do this, let's do it once, let's do it right, let's make this whole thing CTE and revisit the discussion about this building over here? The central office building here, like we have $20 million.
So the one thing I would say is,
The blue room, yeah.
I really like this plan.
Okay.
Because I think it gives, and I'm gonna say this with them in the room, but I think it gives Mrs. Armstrong and Mrs. Taylor time to watch this evolve to what it could look like. And I think it's a lot easier to do some renovations on an admin area and say, we need more space, get admin out of here
Got it.
in about 7-10 years. I don't know the answer to, but maybe that's the next phase.
This is fast,
To
this
say,
is quicker, this is fast.
this is enough, I mean, there's a lot of space here
Yeah,
to
okay.
do some things and to say, okay, this is impactful. And I would much rather that Amy comes back in 3 years and say, we need more room.
Yep.
I'm also gonna be selfish and say, I would love to be in a building with kids.
Yeah, okay.
There's something to be said about any one of us being around a population of students, regardless.
That makes total sense to me.
I think this is still a lot of square footage. It also gives us an opportunity to still maintain some of our playground structures. I'm meeting with a group of parents this week to talk about, maybe we have a child development lab here, which is very similar to an early childhood center for a population of students that live down here. We wanna have conversations about student traffic and what it looks like from a speed standpoint, right? There's always these concerns that kids are flying. I know where we sit in our office here, you can tell when the students get out of school down at 48th and Van Buren, because it's a racetrack, down Van Buren. Fortunately, our elementary kids get out an hour later, so we wanna have those conversations. So there's still a lot of discussion to take place.
And
here.
that makes, I'm glad I asked, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we can do some pretty neat things. I've seen buildings that have been completely renovated from an administrative standpoint. And I'm gonna say it'll be better. This building's tired.
Oh, this building is good.
Yeah, but I also I'd rather, if we can put more money into our kids, I think all of us think that's a priority.
Yeah. So what would happen, are there opportunities to do something else in this building, or just get rid of it?
We would, option B, we would say this would be a great opportunity to expand some parking and some structures. And if we maintain the field, maybe that field's used a little bit more. I mean, we could also do something very small here from maybe a professional development building or an outhouse. We could do something. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Well, there's more discussions to
Sure,
have about
sure.
this building, what that looks like. I mean, clearly, these are just ideas I wanted to share so that you can have an idea of where things could go. Any questions about this? I do have one more fairly important topic to talk about regarding this.
So what, I know it depends on the programming and a whole bunch of things, but how many students do you think could benefit from the blue? Any idea?
No,
Oh.
only because there's some programming that based on the volume of students that we send, we would still send them to Ottawa.
Yep.
We might have 2 kids in a program, and that makes it hard. It makes it hard for them to even to have a program when there's 2 from here and 1 from wherever, but there are others that we'd like to expand. Culinary is one that we'd like to expand on. We talked a little bit about nursing, I know it's more than nursing, Barb knows the terms better than I do about what pre-med or whatever they call it.
Medical assistants.
Medical, yes.
nursing assistants.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a few different medical CTE programs that we'd like to, and we looked at, I know Amy and I met, we went through a lot of the volume of our kids that are signing up for things and who's waitlisted, and so there's a lot more layers to this, but we started the conversation tonight. So one of the questions that I talked to Greg a little bit earlier about this, one of the questions that came up, was how do we really know what our community thinks about this proposal, this idea? I drafted a letter to go in Appleseed, that has some of this information in it. I'd like to share it with the board. I know Greg's had a chance to look at it. We had some conversation, made some tweaks, but I'd like to share it with the board because I want to get your thoughts on sharing this with you before it goes out to the general public is the right time. I have had, meetings with buildings on the south side of the district, Riley, Jamestown, Upper and Lower, Forest Grove, and South, because they're impacted quite a bit by the conversation about the 5-6 building, and because of conversations we've had as a board, we've had it with interschool advisory, talking to parents about what it looks like. I don't want them to be the last ones to hear about it, so we had good conversations. You know, some minor feedback, but people are getting it for the first time, they're processing it. I did have a chance to talk to one of the buildings today about feedback, both good and interesting, I guess is another way to put it. So how can we get a better understanding of what our community, you know, we asked, not only do we ask our parents what they think, and we got their feedback, we also asked several senior citizens that use our golden age passes. But those are also people that care about schools, right? You get a survey and you care, you're gonna fill it out. Are they the ones that are gonna be voting and everything? And go from there. So there's always a question of who's gonna vote. And so I'd really like to maybe do another study so that the board, before we make a final decision, can say, okay, I want as much information as I can. You've seen districts in the past use epic MRA studies to get a better understanding of the voting population, who's out there to vote, what it looks like. It just gives the board one more component of, is there something on this list that's a hot topic? Or is it like, nope, let's go. I think, in my opinion, I feel we've worked really hard on this, but I only get one vote, right? So what does it look like if we had a better understanding of, are there pockets that need more education, have more questions? Are there you know, I could say, well, Jamestown thinks this, and Georgetown, I don't know, it's just it's a hunch, it's a gut feeling. And I think as the board, you probably have conversations and can have an idea about different pockets, what it looks like. So I talked to Greg a little bit, you can I'll let him speak, but about what we talked about, but the idea is, if we did a additional study, you see a lot of districts do these after maybe a bond was not successful, and they're like, let's go back and let's find out more information. I'd rather do it before so that you're making the best decisions you can for your community as a whole, not just your population that you have contacts with. I know Pat and I talked very briefly about it. It's been an active day today. This kind of came to me thinking about it over the weekend, and then thinking tonight, I was like, there could do some more. So did have a chance to talk with somebody from Lansing about doing this study, had a great conversation. Spent a lot of time giving them back history, not just the current bond, but what got us here and the successful bond campaigns that the districts have had for years. But I think maybe what's the harm in doing one where at least you will have information if you wanna, maybe there's a discussion to get rid of the tennis courts at Riley, I don't know, I'm just thinking of ideas up there, so would love any feedback. Greg, I don't know if you wanna.
No, I think that, when Dr. Vanderjack approached me this afternoon about this, as a board member, I want all the information I can get. And I want to be as thorough as possible, and I think all of you do too, because I think all of us are in a position where we're gonna advocate for this, at least based on what I've heard at our meetings. So if that's the case, I wanna know as much as possible about what the people are thinking out there and not be accused of trying to shove something down someone's throat and hide things from them and all this kind of stuff. So, I think that doing another survey with, in this Epic MRA, I mean, they do surveys all over the place, very well thought of. And they've done surveys like this in the past, from what Dr. Vanderjagt said. They can give us some guidance on this too, and maybe reach a population that Dr. Vanderjagt said votes, but we haven't reached with all of our focus groups and things like that. So, I'm all for doing this. In fact, I think we might be negligent if we didn't take advantage of this opportunity that we're about. So that's what I would say.
What's the timeline, we were just talking about,
About 6 weeks. It would be tight from a standpoint that we'd probably postpone a board vote, but we don't have to technically take a vote in April. It was just, I don't wanna keep going through the work if the board was like, we don't wanna do this, so that was kind of a timeline. It would give the board time to make a decision well before the bond application deadline
July.
is June. June 19, I believe is the date, off the top of my head, but right in that timeframe. We'd have more information by the first week of that.
SOAR surveys are gonna go out to the community when?
They're planning doing that after. So Epic MRA is all phone. It's about, you could do a 300 or 400 person. It's a 5.7 margin of error for 300. It's about 4.9 margin of error for 400. And then there's a number of questions. If you want to ask 24 to 28 questions, it's this amount. If you want to ask more questions, we probably, if you look at a kind of a matrix of 300, 400, and 3 different levels, we're probably 400 right in the middle. I don't think we have to ask all of that many, like 32 questions in a 20-minute phone interview. But there's a lot of stuff here, so that's kind of where it's been all of 3.5 hours reviewing the proposal and talking to Craig and Pat, and Pat's hearing this for kind of the first time about some of the details, so we have a lot to do in the next, I would say 24 hours, but we had an opportunity tonight to have a conversation.
Talk about the process a little bit. You're making phone.
Yep, so it starts with kind of they get a lot of feedback from us, they create a questionnaire, we go through the questionnaire to make sure it addresses what we need to, and then they start doing their phone. Now, they have access to a lot of different records from a standpoint of your standard voters, whether they're support or not, and asking, and they get a wide range of what they do, and it takes about 2 weeks for them to do all of that.
So they'll have cell phone numbers.
Yep. Yep. They get a lot, and we actually get access to a lot of the data when it's done, which is nice, maybe in the future, even if it's, what it allows us to do is make sure we're educating the people that we need to, and I'm not saying targeting, I'm just saying educating. How you vote is a personal decision. I think that you vote, and that you vote educated on what is being asked, I think is extremely important. The people that always vote yes and don't read it, that's fine. The people that always vote no and don't read it, that's fine. I just want people to vote based on, okay, this is how it's impacting my community, my subdivision,
And the nice thing about Epic, we've seen other local groups use them and how they basically get smart questions. I mean, they don't just ask cookie cutter, the same questions they ask everywhere. They really do their homework and they know the issues, so they can bring a little bit to us. I would say the consultants like Stiefel, OAK, some PFM, but they have opinions, GMB, they have opinions on what kinds of questions get you the best, tell you what you need to know. I mean, so I think there's enough people, and then the ISDs use them, a lot of other local schools have used them too, and the nice thing is they're pretty close. I mean, what the results of their surveys are bear themselves out in election results. It's a good process.
How much does it cost?
a lot. It depends on the level, I don't wanna go through too many details here, but it depends, we still haven't had conversations with them about, is there something between, it's anywhere between 10,000 and 26,000. There's a wide range, and there's a lot of variables in there that you can ask about things. I do think with the scope of what we're looking at here, it makes sense. If we were doing a $3 million bond project, it might look different. The cost is the same regardless of the scope, but for us and the size of this bond, I think it would be helpful. I can share, and in fact, I mentioned to Greg, if the board finance committee wants to dive deeper into this conversation, so that we go to the next board meeting, if there's questions, I'm a little, only because I haven't spent too much, I don't wanna spend 2 hours or 45 minutes on something that be tied to that.
Refresh my memory, how much was our last bond?
149, well, just under 150, or 139, 149,
Beat.
139, sorry, just under 139.
I mean, I think one thing is that we've been modifying this plan countless times, and tweaking it based on input that we're getting already from people. So I think if anyone were to say, well, why did you spend X number of dollars on a survey? It's because we're spending X times 100 on a building program, and we want to know what the community wants. And we want to make those decisions before, not after. So I think, I have no reservations whatsoever about spending 25 on something like this. In fact, I told Dr. Vanderjack it would be negligent if we didn't do it.
And a lot of times, depending on the conversations, you might have a proposal that you don't hear any noise, but based on several other bond issues around the state that may not have been successful, it's a little bit different time, and this is a large bond. So it's different than the last one from the standpoint of it wasn't maybe an item on there that people were raising an eyebrow. This is a little bit different. There could be questions about, there's not as much money into athletics in this one as there was in the last, but there's a different perception. I mean, most people don't drive by the 5-6 building every day and look at a beautiful academics building, but they do drive down 32nd, and they think that's all we did was build a field house, which wasn't even scratching the surface on the work we did at Park Elementary, which you don't drive by every day. Forest Grove's parking lot and their addition, and people don't drive by that every day, but they do drive down 32nd. And so there is I don't know about common perception, but some people will say that's all you did, and that is not even remotely close, but we're educated on that, because we live it, not everybody lives this world.
Yeah, given, it's the biggest we've done. It's gotta be one of the biggest in West Michigan that's been done, I would guess. And given the uncertainty, given some of the economic and other uncertainties that are out there, and some of the, as you mentioned, some of the bonds that have, struggled to get through, put it that way. To get more information to help us to make prudent decisions, I think, we can support that. The cost, we will cover it, that's not, it's, okay, I understand where you're going.
Yeah, totally support. More information.
Yeah.
Start.
So we'll get to work on that actually starting tonight, so.
And I think we might even wanna, plug in some of the questions like, okay, if the district isn't growing exponentially percentage-wise with kids, does that affect your thoughts and those types of things? Because, but what are we gonna get back from people? Cause that's the one thing that I've said to Dr. Vanderjack as a pause for me is a little bit if we were growing like this with our student population, it would be a much easier sell if someone asked that question. So maybe we're out there saying, okay, and we find out that 85% of the people think that would be a huge issue to them. Okay, well then then how do we, this would give us some feedback on that, and then maybe we could message, you know, a little differently maybe.
Definitely would impact the messaging. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you know, the enrollment, is always a question that we talk about, but it's also where's the enrollment?
Yeah.
Part of the district, grade levels, and that clearly, it's an HR issue from a standpoint of staffing, but it's also what buildings are impacted.
It's an issue, it's an opportunity to
It is.
employ local people and create jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
There was an article, and we should be cautious about the growth, because there was an article that came out from the, county commission today or yesterday. And before the next 10 years, short of a decade, so in 8, 9 years, 7 to 9 years, call it, 100,000 more people are expected to move into the county. So that's and they put it in the context of that's a Grand Haven, a Georgetown Township, and a Holland, city. That amount of people are projected through the sources that the county commission uses to move into the county in the next 7 to 9 years. So I know there's a flat spot right now, and there's some, you know, some reductions in some local companies like Gentex and some others. But the county, at the county level, they're still projecting strong growth. So we have to keep that longer term perspective in mind.
And I think that's an excellent response to what I just said, you know.
Well, I'm bringing the point about, be careful about let
Yeah.
Epic MRA figure out how to ask.
Right,
some
exactly,
questions.
exactly, that's why I
Because
said
there's
that, but,
longer term
yeah,
projections are
that's
still-
great news to hear something like
Yeah,
that,
and
because,
And we've talked about that, it might
Yeah.
not necessarily be houses that are
Right.
up, that are
Right.
building, it's turnover, we saw that in
Right.
Hidden Lakes, no, Hidden Forest?
Oh, Georgetown Forest.
Georgetown Forest, at one point, about like 14 families, all moved out. And they were all empty nesters, and the people that moved in were not empty nesters, and it really changed enrollment at
And another 14, another 14.
one building, so it just, you don't know. when-
Yeah.
You don't know
I mean, there's-
exactly when that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
These-
we've
these
talked about
these
that. We're
apartments that
both-
they build in Hudsonville, they
Yeah.
fill them as soon as they
Yeah.
build them. So it's there. It's just, it's the housing situation as you talked about, this other stuff, but the growth will be there, I think.
Yeah,
I also think this whole survey too is helpful, the information we've sent out has been to people who are affiliated with this district. It'd be helpful to get, there's 40-some thousand voters to get information from our other schools that, you know, vote.
It's gonna be a high turnout election.
Yep, 100%.
yeah, and they did, even on the phone, he mentioned, he said, you know, if you guys are on the third page of a long ballot,
Yeah.
we want to be able to give you information to be able to address that with your certain population.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
So we'll kind of-
why didn't you think of this sooner?
Because I'm not that, I don't know, I did think, I'm gonna be honest with you, we've talked about it so many times that doing it, but then we worked so hard on focus groups and surveys and feedback, and when you get all positive feedback, it makes you think this is great, but then you start worrying about the day after, what could we have done more?
Right.
And so, this might be another avenue to look at.
Were the surrounding district found issues that were not successful? This is a long shot question, I'm just curious if you know, was their board 100% behind?
No.
Okay. I think we've got a lot of good momentum on this
We
board.
do, and I
A lot
think
of
that's a
good
big statement, and it's not just is the board lockstep 7-0,
Yep.
but you don't have a board member advocating against it.
Right.
Or financing a campaign against it,
Yep.
and that changes the narrative when, I feel like the board, and if there are reservations, we want to address them prior to, because I think it's important. I remember years ago when people would say, why is the board always 7-0? Well, it's my job to educate you so that we can be, and not that we're always going to be, because there's always gonna be things that you get to vote on separately, but we wanna make sure, so that was one of the issues, and there was also a lot of other dynamics
Yeah.
taking place, but, you know, having a 0 millage rate increase, also gives a chance for this survey through Epic to also educate constituents, so that when they are in their circles of friends, or circles of influence even, they can also say, oh yeah, I didn't realize, you know, they learn too. And outside of our, the population we have access to.
In this board, I mean, we all have a sphere of influence, we're in this position for a reason. We have an obligation to make sure we educate our constituents as well when they ask, so we've got that going for us for sure.
Sweet, that's all I have.
Okay, well, since we're in the allotted time period that we gave ourselves,
Wow.
I'm gonna go
Who
to,
gave, what time, what was that time?
8 to 8:30.
Oh, I didn't-
wow, that's very wide.
You can let me go last.
Okay, Pat?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank, Dr. Vanderjack and the rest of the cabinet for, filling in for me for a week, let me get out there. My son got married in Arizona last week. It was awesome. But it's a lot of extra on them, and I appreciate everything they did. As well as just, recognize this month what the transportation department does to fill in for just not enough people. And the numbers of people that came out of the community, just a farmer, someone's got a CDL, just people that drive truck for other companies, and just that the community at large, but just, it was our director, our dispatchers, our assistant director, our mechanics, but it's also our bus drivers, it's our teachers. A lot of people just reached out, and last week, we had one scenario, we were gonna have to cancel 5 routes, all week. And then we'd still be tight on some days and have to cancel additional routes. And, we had to cancel a couple, but they just made it through, and it's a credit to them. It's always tough in transportation in general, the month of February, but just, it's just part of what makes Hudsonville special and sometimes challenging, is we have a lot of our retirees that drive the bus for us. And our retirees really enjoy, Florida and go, other places in February. It's just a fact, they're still great drivers, but it makes February tough. And up to the middle of March, February, middle of March. So, hats off to them for all that work, and, yeah, they did a great job. That's all I have. Thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that we had previewed this topic in the previous session, but typically our 6 through 12 students participate in mental health screener twice a year. And this year, in consideration of bringing our My Student Voice questions, which are more about school culture, replicating those questions for the same students, but also knowing that our 5th graders participated in that this year, this felt like the right time to introduce both the social emotional screener and the My Student Voice questions to our 5th graders. And so they participated in that last week, had a great participation rate. It was really great that each building's team that supports 5th graders were able to review those results and respond within a week of getting those. Tragically, but also kind of indicating that that system worked, is that we were able to identify some 5th graders who hadn't been on the radar for other behavioral risk factors as needing additional support quite immediately, and we were able to provide that right away. So I'm really thankful that that system was in place to support that individual student, but also the teams that really took the time to analyze that data and make sure they had timely responses. Also, there's a lot of markers in special education that are used to identify whether we're meeting the mark as well as if we're making progress. And one of those is related to building transition plans for students with disabilities and ensuring that they have activities and goals set up to help them meet their post-secondary success. And so this is for students that both are going on to college or career, or are looking to participate in the community in some way. And so every student that has an IEP at the high school level has what's called a transition plan. And those are meant to be really individualized and really meaningful, but also highly compliant. And so actually, this is one of the areas that MDE provides the most level of oversight. And so they expect 100% compliance on those transition plans. And so for the past 3 years, our high school team has met that 100% compliance task. They do an enormous amount of work upfront to speak with community agencies and parents and students to make sure that they have not only all their ducks in a row, but also a lot of good input to see how their post-secondary plans might change professional basketball player to maybe in their senior year, they wanna try accounting. So we navigate those every year and try to have good conversations about, how do we research that a little bit more and know what that might take? So just really proud of all the work that's gone into that and, the teachers that support those things. Those are my updates. Thank
So
you.
the NBA is adding 2 more teams, I think, so
Are
there's
they?
another 30 positions.
So there's a better chance
There
than
you
there was
go.
before.
There you
That's
go,
good to
there you
know.
go. And thank you, Mandy.
It's kind of exciting and a little surreal that we are posting for the 26-27 school year already. We have some tough to fill positions, not just because our great educators are leaving us, due to a much deserved retirement, but just, some of the staff, especially in our industrial tech department, the college programs aren't there anymore. So when we talk about CTE and trying to figure out different alternative ways to educate kids to become career ready or college ready, it's hard. So if you know anybody that is interested in drafting or CAD design, really looking for that. But it's been fun to start talking to some different people in industrial tech. So that's really, it just gets me excited for post spring break interviewing. So that's what we're doing. I also want to give a big thank you to members of my department and over there in payroll and finance department, and Mike Anderson and our transportation union, and for $27 that are going to be going out in the April through payroll, which is really great and exciting, and that's a big lift for HR and finance to get it done. And also it will get some extra dollars that we're given, through the state budget to our staff right before spring break, which is really kind of nice. Huh?
Stimulus.
A little stimulus
Yes.
package, yes. So, yeah, so that's happening. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amy?
Yeah, I think I would just add on to the ELA update to just say there's also a lot of work happening within the math pre-K-12 committee. I met with the 6-8 team last week that sits on that committee, and they're really diving into instructional practices as an outcome of one of our pre-K-12 math committee meetings. As we were looking at data, established that there was some work that needed to happen as far as getting more aligned across multiple buildings of scope and sequence, et cetera, to really be able to collaborate at the high levels that we are wanting. And so highly engaged at the 6-8 level, looking at grading practices, looking at aligning curriculum, looking at changing instructional practices within classrooms, and so some great work happening there. At the K-5 level, I'll be meeting with a leadership team on Friday. Most of the time our committees meet as a pre-K-12 committee all in one. However, there are nuanced times when they identify work that we say, okay, well, that's just specific to elementary, for example. So I'll be meeting with the team on Friday, that's elementary specific, to really take a look at our current state in year 2 and begin to consider what year 3 priorities may be in the area of math, and in addition to knowing that ELA is a priority, how do we continue to hold both? Because we are seeing very good student outcomes from our Bridges implementation. We want to make sure that we're maintaining that as well. And then our 9-12 math teachers are really excited to enter into a pilot. They'll be meeting at the beginning of August to explore 4 identified curriculums that they are looking at to really ensure that we are increasing rigor and ensuring that the latest research and best practices are happening in those classrooms as well. So there's a lot going on even in math, and it's really good work. I feel thankful every time I come together with a group of teachers. They are highly committed and passionate about the work and want to come to the table. They're volunteering to do it. So it's really cool opportunity to work with our staff so closely in some of these meaningful ways. So
Thank you, Amy. Dr. Bandage?
Well said, too.
Okay. Nick?
I'm all set, thanks.
Also,
Maybe I just want to say thank you for sharing the update from the mental health screening. It's really good to hear that, someone has identified and actions taken. Thank you.
I have a couple quick fun updates. I was selected as chaperone for the 5th grade camp.
Oh,
So,
You're
that'll
good.
be, stop it. That'll be fun. Also, we made our social science selections. We had a meeting with all the students last week in the morning and a parent meeting after spring break, so that's all coming along. So just want to say thanks to the board and everyone else who supports that program. It's awesome. I get excited every year, this time of year, to get going again. The Cinderella, hopefully everyone got to make it. It was absolutely,
That was gonna be my thing to share.
I've got to say that. I liked it too. I'll let you go to it. And then today I went to Bauer and was a mystery reader for Jackson's 3rd grade class. And it's just like, just the joy, the passion, all the things. It's just so much fun. And it reminds me why I love being on the sport. We're doing good things with everyone here at the table. So thanks to everyone for making that stuff happen. It's awesome. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Linda.
I went to see Cinderella. It was amazing. Yeah, hopefully everyone went. It was incredible. I know Dawn did. I saw her at the, oh boy,
Saturday.
visitation. And I saw her at her dad's visitation, and she just was like, oh, it was so great to go with the grandkids and just have a break and.
I will tell you, the age level of people at the Saturday matinee was probably different than the Saturday evening performance. It was an active Saturday. I know Amy was there, Dawn was there on Saturday, Robin was there on Saturday. Kids did a nice job.
Saturday night. It was just incredible. Incredible. Grateful for the tickets and, yeah, for all the hard work, obviously, that everyone put into that. It was just, I even got my husband to go with me by raving about last year's, because he's an anti-musical stuff. If singing's involved, he's like, nah, acting, but he came and he was like.
Not here to defend himself.
Well, it's true, he would own again. He's like,
It's a theme.
yeah, he's like, wow, that was like way better than expected. That is it.
Okay, well, I would just like to pick up on something Andrew said, that, I really enjoy coming to our meetings, and I think as a group, we're doing a lot of really good things. As far as this bond, I'm very confident in what we've got in front of us. I'm thankful that all of us on this board is a very talented group of people, could be doing a lot of stuff with your time, and yet you're here. And like Andrew says, we all have a sphere of influence, and let's take that opportunity to utilize that, and just keep on moving along like we are, and also just continue to pray for Dawn as she's dealing with the death of her father. Anyway, thank you for everything that you do. At this point, I'm gonna ask, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So,
Andy and Nick, supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for adjourning.